Alien princess joked she'd marry the human if he survived the trials. Imagine her face when Max Hill had always considered himself a reasonably lucky guy, not lottery-winning lucky but find a 20 and an old jacket lucky, the kind of luck that got you through life with minimal hassle. That luck had apparently run its course. One moment he'd been testing the experimental jump drive on his small cargo hauler, a freelance job that paid well enough to overlook the sketchy paperwork, and the next alarms blared as the ship tumbled through what felt like the universe's most violent blender. When the spinning stopped and the emergency systems kicked in, Max found himself staring at an unfamiliar planet through his viewport, a beautiful world of azure oceans and emerald land masses orbiting a golden sun. Computer, where the hell are we? Max asked. Running diagnostics, unknown star system approximately 47,000 light-years from Earth. A jump drive critically damaged. Fantastic, he muttered, checking the atmospheric readings. At least I can breathe down there. The landing was rough but survivable. His ship, unfortunately, was not. The jump drive had effectively melted into slag and half the systems were fried beyond repair. Max grabbed his emergency pack, strapped his service pistol to his thigh, and stepped out onto alien soil. The air carried a sweet, almost spicy scent. Massive trees with silver-blue leaves stretched toward the sky, and in the distance he could make out the spires of what appeared to be a city. Well, Hill, he said to himself, looks like you're going to make first contact. As he approached the city, he noticed increasing numbers of aliens, humanoid but distinctly not human. Their skin tones ranged from deep blues to vibrant reds with elongated features and eyes and striking colors. They stared at him with equal curiosity, but none seemed particularly alarmed by his presence. Some even nodded in greeting. The city itself was a marvel of architecture, graceful towers of what looked like polished stone and metal connected by arching bridges. At its center stood a massive Colosseum-like structure where crowds were gathering. Excuse me, Max approached a vendor selling what appeared to be fruit. I'm a bit lost, could you tell me where I am? The alien blinked at him with golden eyes. You speak the common tongue, you must be here for the trials, the centennial trials of Valcoria. The vendor gestured toward the Colosseum. Warriors from across the galaxy compete, only happens once every 100 cycles. I'm not. You must hurry if you wish to register. Princess Naira closes the roster at midday. Max was about to correct the misunderstanding when he overheard nearby aliens discussing the prize technology that could transport the winner anywhere in the galaxy. Exactly what he needed to get home. Where do I register? Shunto, he asked. The vendor pointed toward an ornate building adjacent to the Colosseum, the Royal Registry. But be warned, off-worlder few survive the trials. I've survived worse, but Max replied, though he wasn't entirely sure that was true. The Royal Registry bustled with activity, warriors of various species checking in, officials in elaborate uniforms processing documentation, and at the center of it all, seated on a raised dais, was the most striking alien Max had ever seen. Her skin was a vibrant crimson, her features delicate yet strong. Long silvery white hair cascaded down her back, and her emerald eyes seemed to pierce through whoever stood before her. She wore an elegant black gown adorned with intricate golden patterns that accentuated her regal bearing. Princess Naira, he presumed. Max waited his turn, observing the proceedings. Each warrior presented credentials, and the princess either approved or rejected them with a casual gesture. When his turn came, he stepped forward, aware of how out of place he must look. Name and world of origin? Asked an official. Max Hill. Earth. The princess's head snapped up at that, her emerald eyes widening. Earth. We have no record of warriors from this world. I'm something of a pioneer, Max replied with a confidence he didn't entirely feel. Nara rose from her seat, descending the steps to study him more closely. She circled him once, her gown whispering against the marble floor. You wish to compete in the trials? She asked, amusement dancing in her eyes. Yes, your highness, she laughed, then a musical sound that nonetheless carried an edge of mockery. You can't be serious, that's suicide. But fine, she raised her voice, addressing the gathered crowd. If by some miracle you survive, and when I'll personally become your wife. The assembly erupted in laughter. Max maintained his composure, though his jaw tightened. I accept those terms, princess, he said evenly. Her smile faltered slightly at his seriousness. Very well, Earthling, sign the blood oath, and you'll be entered into tomorrow's preliminaries. As Max pressed his thumb to the strange glowing document, he caught Nara watching him with newfound curiosity. The competitors' quarters are in the eastern wing, she said, her voice softer now. Rest well, Max Hill of Earth, you'll need your strength. As he walked away, he heard her add under her breath, what little good it will do you. That night in his sparse quarters, Max studied the information provided to all competitors. The trials consisted of 5 Stages: the culling, the labyrinth, the beast, the elements, and finally the crucible, a challenge across a lake of molten lava. Most competitors didn't survive past the second stage. What have I gotten myself into? He muttered, staring out at the alien moons hanging in the night sky. But as he thought of his ship broken beyond repair, he knew he had no choice, win or die trying either way. He wasn't going back to Earth in a box. Max couldn't sleep. The alien moons cast strange shadows across his quarters. As he reviewed the trial information for the third time, tomorrow would determine whether his impulsive decision had been brave or suicidal. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. Cautiously he approached the door, hand instinctively moving toward his sidearm. When he opened it, he froze in surprise. Princess Naira stood before him, her regal posture unchanged but her elaborate gown replaced by a simpler silver tunic that caught the moonlight. Two royal guards stood at attention several paces behind her. Your Highness, Max managed suddenly, aware he was shirtless. May I enter, Earthling? Her emerald eyes traveled briefly over his muscled torso before returning to his face. Max stepped aside, acutely conscious of the sparse accommodations. It's not exactly a royal suite. Competitors are given equal quarters regardless of status. She glided into the room, dismissing her guards with a gesture. Wait outside. Once the door closed, she turned to him with undisguised curiosity. Earth? I've never heard of it. We're a bit off the beaten path, Max replied, pulling on a shirt. Why are you here, Princess? To satisfy my curiosity. She moved to the window, moonlight illuminating her crimson skin. No species has ever entered the trials without prior diplomatic contact, yet here you are. Here I am, he agreed, leaning against the wall, though not by choice. Her eyebrow arched. Explain. Max described his jump drive malfunction and crash landing. As he spoke, Nara's expression shifted from skepticism to fascination. A solitary traveler crossing the void in a vessel of your own design. She shook her head in wonder. Your species must be either remarkably brave or remarkably foolish. We're a healthy mix of both. Max smiled, though I'm leaning toward foolish at the moment. Indeed. She approached him, studying his features with scientific interest. Your physiology is remarkably similar to Valkoran's, yet distinct. Your skin. She reached out, hesitating briefly before touching his cheek. Fascinating texture. Her touch was warm, warmer than human skin. Max felt his pulse quicken. Your temperature is lower than ours, she observed, her voice softening. Are all humans so cool to the touch? I've never been called cool before, he quipped, earning a confused look that melted into understanding. Wordplay we have. This too. Her lips curved into a genuine smile, transforming her face from merely beautiful to breathtaking. Max became acutely aware of their proximity. Her scent was exotic, something like cinnamon and storm clouds. You should know, he said carefully, I intend to win tomorrow. Her smile turned challenging. Thousands have tried the trials, break even the mightiest warriors. I'm not like the others. No, she agreed, her gaze intensifying. You are not. The air between them seemed to thicken. Naira's hand still rested against his cheek, her thumb tracing his jawline with scientific precision that was rapidly becoming something else. Is this how humans establish dominance hierarchies? She asked, her voice dropping to a whisper. This tension. Max laughed softly. Not exactly. This is something else entirely. Show me, she commanded, royal authority mingling with genuine curiosity. He hesitated. Princess, I'm not sure that's I am. Her emerald eyes held his considerate diplomatic research. When their lips met, Max felt an electric current run through him. Her skin radiated heat against his, and her surprise gasp melted into something more primal. The kiss deepened, her inexperience with human customs evident, but quickly overcome by natural instinct. When they finally separated, both breathing heavily, Niara looked stunned. That was unexpected, she whispered, touching her lips. Good. Unexpected or bad? Unexpected, Max asked, still holding her waist. Fascinating. Unexpected. Her eyes gleamed with new understanding. Humans communicate through physical contact among other methods. He smiled. She stepped back, composing herself with visible effort. I should go. The preliminaries begin at dawn. Of course. At the door she paused. Max Hill of Earth? Yes, Princess. I still don't believe you'll survive the trials. Her voice carried a new note of concern. But I find myself hoping you might prove me wrong. After she left, Max stood motionless, processing what had just happened. The most powerful being on this planet had just kissed him and seemed as affected by it as he was. Focus Hill, he muttered, when first romance the alien princess, later. But as he finally drifted to sleep, his dreams were filled with crimson skin and emerald eyes. Dawn broke over Valkyria, bathing the Colosseum in golden light. As competitors gathered for the preliminaries, Max stood among them, acutely aware of how different he appeared from the other warriors, some with multiple limbs, others with exoskeletons or scales, all battle-hardened and intimidating. The preliminary trial was simple in concept. A race through an obstacle course designed to test speed, strength, and endurance. Only half the competitors would advance from her elevated platform. Princess Niara presided over the event. Resplendent in ceremonial armor that complemented her crimson skin, their eyes met briefly before she looked away, her expression carefully neutral. Beside her stood an older Valkyrian male with steel-gray hair and a face etched with disapproval. He leaned close, whispering urgently in her ear, "Competitors, take your positions," announced the master of trials, a burly Valkyrian with ceremonial scars crisscrossing his blue skin. Max found himself at the starting line next to a hulking reptilian warrior whose breath smelled of sulfur, fresh meat. The creature hissed, eyeing Max with contempt. "Good luck to you too," Max replied with a tight smile. The signal horn blared and they were off. The first obstacle was a series of walls increasing in height. Max watched as competitors use various adaptations, extendable limbs, claws, even limited flight to scale them. He relied on human agility and upper body strength, surprised to find himself keeping pace. Next came a mud pit filled with what appeared to be electric eels. Many warriors plowed straight through their thick hides, resistant to the shocks. Max, lacking such protection, spotted stepping stones half submerged in the muck. With precise jumps he navigated across, while others floundered. The human uses strategy, someone shouted from the crowd. By the third obstacle, swinging blades that required precise timing, Max realized something crucial. His human reflexes were actually faster than many of the larger, stronger aliens. What he lacked in brute strength he made up for in speed and adaptability. Up in the royal box, Nara leaned forward, her interest visibly piqued as Max cleared obstacles with unexpected efficiency. "Your Highness," her advisor Lord Krell spoke with thinly veiled irritation, "your midnight visit to the Earthlings' quarters has not gone unnoticed." Nara's eyes remained fixed on the competition. "I was curious about an unknown species, nothing more." "Such curiosity is unbecoming of your station," Krell replied, "particularly when directed toward a competitor who cannot possibly win." "Cannot?" She raised an eyebrow. "He seems to be performing adequately. The preliminaries are merely for show. You know as well as I do that the final outcomes of the trials are guided." Naira's jaw tightened. "The sacred trials have always been fair contests of skill and courage." Krell's laugh was humorless. "Perhaps that's what you were taught. Reality is more pragmatic. For generations the trials have ensured politically advantageous outcomes. Your father understood this necessity." "My father is dead," she replied coldly, "and I am Princess Regent now, which is precisely why you should be concerned with dynastic considerations. Your marriage will seal alliances. The Dravik Confederation has presented 3 suitable candidates in this year's trials." Below, Max had reached the final obstacle and a climbing wall slick with oil. Many competitors struggled for purchase, but Max removed his shirt, using it to wipe sections clean before ascending with remarkable speed. Naira watched transfixed as he pulled himself over the top, finishing among the first quarter of competitors. "The human has no place here," Krell insisted. "His continued advancement would be problematic." "On the contrary," Naira replied, rising from her seat as the preliminaries concluded. "I find his performance most illuminating." Later, as Max caught his breath in the recovery area, a royal attendant approached. "The princess requests your presence in the Garden of Reflection. Follow me." The garden proved to be a secluded courtyard filled with phosphorescent plants that pulsed with gentle light. Nara waited beside a fountain of liquid that shimmered like mercury. "You surprised many today," she said as he approached, "including me." "Humans are adaptable," Max replied. "It's our greatest strength, so I observed." She gestured for him to sit beside her. "But I must warn you, the trials are not merely tests of ability." "What do you mean?" She hesitated, then spoke in a lowered voice. "My royal advisor has informed me that the outcomes are predetermined, politically arranged." Max frowned. "You're saying they're rigged for generations, apparently without my knowledge?" Her emerald eyes flashed with anger. "The trials are sacred to our people. This corruption dishonors everything they represent." "Why tell me this?" "Because you deserve to know the truth." Her hand found her touch, sending warmth through his arm. "And because I find myself conflicted about my duty versus my desires." She moved closer, her scent intoxicating. "Last night awakened something unexpected in me, Max Hill of Earth." The air between them charged with electricity, just as it had in his quarters. This time, when their lips met, there was no hesitation, only hunger. Her arms wound around his neck, pulling him closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, Niara pressed her Forehead to his, "This is madness," she whispered. "You are a competitor, I am the Princess Regent. I've never been good at following rule," Max replied, tracing the delicate point of her ear with his finger, fascinated by her shiver of response. "The next trial is tomorrow," she said. "The labyrinth, it's designed to be impossible for someone without prior knowledge of its secrets. Then I'll need to be especially adaptable." He smiled, her expression grew serious. "Be careful, Max. And if you continue to succeed, you'll become a target not just for the other competitors but for those who control the trials." From the shadows, as if summoned by her warning voice's approach, the garden entrance, Nara quickly stepped back. "My advisor," she whispered, "go use the eastern exit." As Max slipped away, he heard Lord Krell's voice, sharp with suspicion. "Your Highness, there are rumors of your continued interest in the human competitor." The labyrinth loomed before the remaining competitors, a massive structure of shifting stone walls that reached toward Valkyria's azure sky. Max stood at the entrance, mentally preparing himself for what lay ahead. "Competitors," the master of trials' voice boomed across the arena, "the labyrinth tests not only your physical prowess but your mental acuity. Find the center, retrieve the token, and return to the entrance. The last 10 to emerge will be eliminated." Max noted the subtle changes to the rules Nara had warned him about. Originally half would be eliminated, now only 10. Someone wanted to ensure that certain competitors advance. As the horn sounded, warriors charged into the maze. Max held back, observing their strategies before entering at a measured pace. The walls shifted around him, rearranging themselves in patterns that seemed designed to disorient. He maintained his bearings by marking passages with small scratches from his utility knife. An hour in, he encountered his first trap floor panels that gave way to spike pits. Max leapt across his lighter human frame, giving him an advantage over the heavier aliens who'd fallen before him. Deeper in the maze, he noticed a greenish mist seeping from vents in the walls. Other competitors began coughing, some collapsing to their knees. Max felt only mild irritation in his throat. "Toxin resistance," he muttered, realizing his human physiology was processing the gas differently. He tore a strip from his shirt, creating a makeshift mask that allowed him to continue while others faltered. Rounding a corner, he nearly collided with a Valkyrian guard, younger than most, with copper-color skin and a nervous expression. "You shouldn't be here," Max said, immediately suspicious. "Neither should you, human," the guard replied, glancing over his shoulder. "At least that's what Lord Krell believes." Max tensed, ready for a fight. "I'm not here to stop you," the guard continued. "I'm Turan. I serve the princess, not her advisor." "Why should I trust you?" "Because the trials are sacred to our people." Turan's expression hardened. "Their corruption dishonors generations of true warriors who competed fairly." "What has Krell done to the labyrinth?" "Changed the configuration, added the toxin vents, and..." Turan hesitated. "The center chamber now contains a creature, a nexus beast that only the Drabek champion has been trained to defeat." Max processed this information. "Why help me? Princess Niara has shown interest in you. That's enough for me to question Krell's motives." Turan produced a small device. "This will guide you through the shifting sections, and take this." He handed Max a vial of blue liquid. "It neutralizes the Nexus beast's hypnotic abilities." "Thank you," Max said, genuinely moved by the unexpected alliance. "Don't thank me yet. Succeed and we both risk Krell's wrath." Turan disappeared down a hidden passage. With Turan's device, Max navigated the maze efficiently, avoiding the worst traps. When he reached the central chamber, he found himself facing a creature unlike any he'd imagined, a floating mass of translucent tissue with dozens of glowing eyes that pulsed in hypnotic patterns. The Drabek champion already engaged it, moving with practiced precision. 3 other competitors lay unconscious at the chamber's edge. Max quickly swallowed Turan's vow, wincing at its bitter taste. The beast's hypnotic pulses washed over him without effect or analyzing the situation. Max noticed the creature recoiled from the Drak's ceremonial blade. The metal caught the light strangely, some kind of alloy the beast found repellent. Max unshaved his utility knife, not the same material, but perhaps. He circled wide and approaching from the opposite side. As the Draft warrior, the beast focused on his trained opponent, didn't register Max until he was close enough to strike at a cluster of eyes. The creature shrieked, its mass contracting defensively. The Draft warrior shouted in surprise as Max darted and snatched one of the tokens from the pedestal and rolled away. "Impossible," the Dak hissed. "No outsider can resist the Nexus." Max didn't wait to explain. He sprinted back into the maze, following Turan's device toward the exit. Word of the humans' immunity to the toxin and resistance to the Nexus beast spread quickly among the officials monitoring the trials. By the time Max emerged fourth among all competitors, a group of Valkyrian scientists waited alongside the medical team. "Remarkable," one murmured as they scanned him with unknown devices. His respiratory system processed the Neurotoxin as a mild irritant and the Nexus had no hypnotic effect. Another. Added, we must study this further. Max endured their examination, understanding that his unique biology had become a point of fascination. When they finally released him, he found Princess Niara waiting, her royal guards ensuring a respectful distance from onlookers. You continue to surprise us, Earthling, she said formally, though her eyes conveyed deeper emotions. I had some help, Max replied quietly, as did your opponents, she countered, yet here you stand. Lord Krell approached, his face a mask of diplomatic courtesy that failed to hide his displeasure. Most impressive human, he said coldly. One might almost suspect outside assistance. One might suspect many things, Lord Krell, Nar interjected, including tampering with the sacred trials. Krell's expression didn't change. The human's unusual resistances merit scientific investigation. Our military researchers have requested access after the trials conclude, Naira stated firmly. For now he has earned his rest before tomorrow's challenge. As Max was escorted to his quarters, now upgraded to reflect his advancing status, he sensed he'd become the center of a power struggle that extended beyond the competition itself. That night, as he reviewed information about the next trial, a secret panel in his chamber wall slid open. Nair stepped through, dismissing her single trusted handmaiden with a gesture. You should be more careful with your visits, Princess, Max said, though he couldn't hide his pleasure at seeing her. My royal prerogative, she replied, moving into his arms with newfound boldness. Besides, I've officially placed you under my personal observation for scientific inquiry. Is that what we're calling it? He murmured against her neck. Their lips met with growing familiarity, yet each touch felt new and electric. Hours passed in exploration and discovery, cultural differences creating moments of both amusement and intense pleasure as they learned each other's bodies. Later, as they lay entwined, Naira traced the contours of his chest with fascination. Your species is extraordinary, she whispered. Your adaptability, your resilience. Krell fears what you represent, which is change. Her emerald eyes met his. Valkoran's value tradition above all else, your presence, your success challenges centuries of carefully maintained order. Is that why you're here? Max asked. Because I represent change, she smiled, kissing him softly. I'm here because you make me feel things no Valkoran ever has, because when you look at me you see Nara, not just the Princess Regent. As dawn approached, she reluctantly prepared to leave the beast trial. Tomorrow will test more than your strength, she warned. Be vigilant. Krell grows desperate. After she departed, Max stood at the window watching Valkoria's moon sink below the horizon. He'd come to this planet seeking only a way home. Now he found himself fighting for something more, something unexpected and precious that had begun with a mocking promise. The morning of the beast trial arrived with an unexpected development. Crowds of Valkorans gathered outside the competitors' quarters, chanting Max's name. What's happening? Max asked Turun, who had been assigned as his official escort. You've become something of a phenomenon, Turun explained, looking both amused and concerned. The human challenger who defies expectations. Street vendors are selling crude effigies of you. Max peered through the window at the enthusiastic crowd that can't be making Krell happy. An understatement, Turun replied. There's talk in the lower city of how the trials have become too predictable, too political. Your success has sparked questions. As they made their way to the arena, Max noticed citizens mimicking his fighting style, wearing strips of cloth around their foreheads as he had during the labyrinth. Children with painted skin pretended to be the mighty Earthling. This is unexpected, Max murmured. Valkorans crave authenticity, Terran said. For centuries the trials have been presented as the ultimate test of worthiness, yet the outcomes have been increasingly convenient for those in power. The beast arena was a massive circular pit surrounded by tiered seating. Unlike previous trials, this one would be a direct spectacle, competitors facing genetically engineered predators. While the crowd watched in the preparation chamber, Max found himself approached by competitors who had previously ignored him. The human who resisted the Nexus acknowledged, a warrior with iridescent scales. Perhaps there is more to your kind than we assumed. Before Max could respond, the chamber doors opened and Princess Nara entered, flanked by her handmaid Aidens. The competitors bowed respectfully. I wish to address you before today's trial, she announced, her voice carrying authority. Despite her youth, each of you represents the finest warriors of your respective worlds. Remember that the trials test not only strength but honor. Her eyes lingered on Max, momentarily conveying a private message before she departed. As the competitors prepared their weapons, Max was surprised when Turun slipped him a small communication device. The princess insists you keep this concealed, he whispered. Use it only in emergency. the device vibrated. Almost immediately Max discreetly checked the message. Krell's quarters searched, found communications with Dravak Confederation. He's promised them your genetic material in exchange for political alliance. Be wary. Ian Max barely had time to process this information before the horn sounded, calling competitors to the arena floor. The beast trial was structured as a series of individual battles. Each competitor would face a predator specifically chosen to test their abilities. Victory came through either subduing the beast or surviving until the time marker. Max watched as the first few warriors faced their challenges, some triumphing easily, others struggling against creatures that seemed perfectly designed to counter their natural advantages. When his turn came, Max entered the arena to thunderous applause. The crowd's enthusiasm had grown with each passing trial, their chants of Earthling echoing off the stone walls. The gate opposite him opened and a sleek panther-like creature emerged. Its 6 legs ended in razor claws and its eyeless head contained nothing but a massive tooth-lined maw. It moved with unnatural speed, circling Max with predatory precision. The Void Hunter, announced the master of trials, it tracks by sensing body heat and heartbeat. No creature has ever escaped its hunt. Max realized immediately that this beast had been specifically selected to counter human physiology. It didn't rely on sight or smell, which meant his smaller size offered no advantage and its speed would negate his agility. The creature lunged without warning. Max barely dodged, feeling claws graze his arm. The crowd gasped as first blood was drawn. Rolling to his feet, Max assessed his options. The beast's tracking ability meant hiding was impossible. He needed to confuse his senses. Remembering his military training, Max controlled his breathing, slowing his heart rate. The creature paused, its head swiveling in confusion as its primary target's signature diminished. Using this momentary advantage, Max circled toward a section of the arena wall that reflected heat differently. He'd noticed it during previous competitors' matches. The beast charged again. This time Max didn't dodge completely, he allowed it to commit to its attack, then pivoted at the last second, using its momentum to send it crashing into the heat-reflective wall. The creature howled in confusion as the wall bounced its own body heat signature back at it, creating multiple target readings. Max seized the opportunity, leaping onto its back and applying pressure to what he hoped was a vulnerable nerve cluster at the base of its skull. The beast thrashed, then gradually stilled as Max maintained the precise pressure point. Finally it slumped to the ground, subdued but not killed. The arena fell silent, then erupted in the loudest cheer yet. Max stood bloodied but victorious as the master of trials announced his advancement in the royal box. Nyra's face showed carefully controlled pride, while Lord Krell's expression darkened with barely concealed rage. That evening, celebrations erupted throughout the city. What had begun as curiosity about the human competitor had transformed into a cultural movement. Citizens openly questioned traditions they had previously accepted without thought. The human fights with honor. He faces beasts designed to defeat him, yet prevails. Perhaps the old ways aren't always best. These sentiments spread through the capital, reaching even the royal palace where Nara confronted Krell in her private chambers. Explain these, she demanded, throwing intercepted communications onto her desk. You negotiated with the Dravak behind my back, promising them access to the human for Valkyria's benefit. Krell replied smoothly, the human's unique biology could revolutionize our military capabilities. The Javik alliance would strengthen our position in the Galactic Council, and my marriage to their champion would seal the deal. Nara stated coldly, how convenient. It is your duty. My duty is to Valkyria's true interests, not your political machinations. Her emerald eyes flashed dangerously. The trials will proceed fairly from this point forward. Any further interference will be considered treason. After dismissing a fuming Krell, Nara used her private passage to visit Max. She found him treating his wounds from the beast trial. You're injured, she said, immediately taking the healing salve from his hands. I've had worse, he replied, though he didn't resist as she tended to his cuts with gentle fingers. The city speaks of nothing but you, she said, her touch lingering on his skin. You've awakened something in my people, a hunger for authenticity, for change. And in you? Max asked, catching her hand and bringing it to his lips. Her answer came in the form of a kiss that quickly deepened into something more urgent. Their encounters had grown increasingly passionate, each discovery of their physiological differences leading to new explorations of pleasure. Hours later, as they lay together in the dim light, Nyra traced the outline of his face with wonder. On Valkyria, physical joining is typically a clinical process. Range for optimal genetic outcomes, she murmured. This connection between us is not something my people understand. Humans call it making love, Max said softly, an apt description. She rested her head on his chest, listening. To his heartbeat tomorrow is the element trial, water and fire combined in deadly harmony. I'll find a way through, he promised. I know you will. Her voice held new certainty. And when you do, Krell and the Dravik will make their move. We must be prepared. As Nara eventually returned to her royal chambers, Max stood at the window watching the city where spontaneous celebrations continued. Somewhere in those streets he knew Krell's agents were also moving, preparing to ensure that regardless of the trial's outcome, the human competitor would not upset generations of careful political balance. The game had changed. It was no longer just about surviving the trials but surviving what came after. The element trial was scheduled at dawn. Max spent the night reviewing what little information he had about the challenge, a treacherous course across alternating sections of water and fire, designed to test adaptability to extreme environments. A soft knock interrupted his preparation. Expecting Naira, he was surprised to find Trin instead, accompanied by 3 other royal guards. We need to speak privately, Tran said, his copper skin ashen with worry. After confirming the room was secure, Tran introduced his companions Mira, Vex and Hole, all younger members of the royal guard. We represent a growing faction within the palace, Taran explained. Those who believe the trials should return to their original purpose, a true test of worthiness, not a political tool. We've admired your progress, Mara added, her violet eyes earnest. You fight with honor, despite the odds being stacked against you. But tomorrow's trial has been compromised, Vex continued grimly. Krell's loyalists have tampered with the safety mechanisms. The fire sections will burn hotter than regulation permits, and the water sections contain hidden currents designed to drag competitors under. Max absorbed this information. Why tell me this? Why not report it to Nara? The princess is being watched too closely, Hole replied, and we needed to be certain of your intentions first. My intentions? Taran stepped forward. Your relationship with Princess Nara hasn't gone unnoticed among the guards. Some see it as an opportunity for real change on Valcoria, while others view it as a threat to centuries of tradition. Mira added, what exactly are you proposing? Max asked. An alliance, Taran said simply. We help you survive tomorrow's sabotage, and in return, when you win, if I win, Max corrected, when you win, Taran insisted, you use your influence to support reforms that return the trials to their sacred purpose and loosen Krell's grip on power. Max considered their offer. I'll